If you feel that the government has too much power over your lives, or you want to make sure that the government doesn't have too much power over your lives, then you need to watch this video all the way to the end. And you need to like it, subscribe, share it with as many people as you can so that YouTube pushes this message out to as many people as possible. And I'm going to explain why. It's been reported by The Times that Boris Johnson wants to implement a new law that will allow the government to overrule the decisions of judges. The Times reports that the Prime Minister has ordered Dominic Raab, the Justice Secretary, to get tough on judges' powers by way of an interpretation bill which will see the government review annually all the decisions made by the judges and overrule or strike out those decisions with which the government does not agree. This is a huge deal for a number of reasons, not least of which because the government will have far too much power over your lives, but more fundamentally because of the organisation of the UK government as it stands with what's known as the separation of powers. So bear with me and allow me to explain. So because the United Kingdom has a different system of government than many other countries around the world, there are essentially three branches of government in the United Kingdom. You might think of the first as being the legislature. This is how laws are made and comprises of Parliament, which is the Crown, the House of Commons and the House of Lords. So when a new law is proposed by way of a bill, it's debated in Parliament and, if successful, is enacted into an act of law. So this branch of government known as the legislature you can think of as the branch that makes the law. Then there is the executive branch, and you can think of this as putting those laws into effect and planning public policy. Although there are certain types of law that the executive branch can create by way of executive orders and things like this, you can primarily think of the executive branch as putting the laws into effect that have been created by the legislature. And finally, where there is a dispute between parties or a dispute over the law, we have the judiciary. The judiciary comprises of the judges and the court system. And the judiciary will administer justice by interpreting the law on how it applies to any given set of facts. And of course, interpreting the meaning of any law which is created by Parliament and how that meaning should be applied to a given set of facts. Now, in my humble view, the most important thing is that each of these three branches are to act separately. This is what you might have heard of as being the separation of powers. Because if you think about it, if all three of these operations, creating the law, executing the law, and interpreting the law, were all carried out under one roof, then there would be no checks and balances and any other independent check of these procedures, making the law, executing it, and interpreting it. That's why we have this separation of powers. Now, going back to my opening comments of this video and the article reported in The Times yesterday, if the government and Boris Johnson are successful in implementing this new rule that will give them an annual review of judicial decisions with a view to overruling or striking out those decisions, then effectively the judiciary are going to lose that power to interpret the law on how it's supposed to be applied in cases. Now, if this happens across the board, how on earth can the judiciary's decisions maintain the precedent that they do today? Meaning, if a particular law is interpreted in a specific way by the judiciary, but the government doesn't like it, this may then allow the government to reverse that decision or strike it out, meaning ultimately that the judiciary will lose this power. Now, I for one, and not just because I'm a barrister, but as a citizen, I wholeheartedly believe that we must have faith and trust in our legal system, and in particular the judiciary, in its independence in applying and interpreting the law to any given set of facts. So just a brief note to those that have left comments to say that I work for the institution or the government and I've sworn an oath and I'm biased and things like this. All of these are not correct. As a barrister and as an individual, I am completely independent and I give you my views, my interpretation, both as a citizen and as a barrister. And I urge you to consider this story very carefully. Subscribe to The Times if you want to read it in full. This is not a sponsored video in any shape or form. And please consider the petition that I've linked below on change.org and sign the petition. But most importantly, please like this video and share it with someone that you think needs to hear about this. The main reason being YouTube will show it to more people because I think everyone in this country needs to know about this story. Because this power grab, if it is true as reported by The Times, simply must not be allowed. Thanks for watching.